Welcome to the Spirit of Business, episode number 69, Managing a Very Busy Life, with Matt Murphy and Sarah McCrum.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Matt. We're going to do something a bit different this week because we have somebody with us who is actually a very, very interesting person, and I'm going to let her tell us a bit about herself, and I think that it'll become really clear as we go through the podcast why it is that we've chosen to do this podcast with her. We always, when we bring other people in, we try to choose people who are really interesting rather than just who everybody else interviews. So I'd like to welcome Juliana Edgell. Juliana, do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about who you are and what your relationship is with business?
Absolutely. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me on this afternoon. So I'm a mum, I'm a daughter, a sister, a wife, a friend and a business owner. I've got 3 businesses that I'm regularly involved in. And then on the side, I've got another business that I do occasionally. And I'm also working part-time in another marketing capacity. So I've got an awful lot on that I do on a weekly basis. And in there, I've got 4 children. So running businesses.
You've just recently got a puppy as well, I gathered.
Yes, we do. A little 8-week-old puppy that I am the main trainer for, apparently. So we've been having lots of fun. So it's very busy in my life.
Well, the obvious question. Oh, go on, Matt.
You forgot your husband too.
I did, actually. And and a husband.
She did say she was a wife. The obvious question that I think almost anybody would ask you is very simply, how do you do it? How do you possibly manage 4 children, a puppy, a husband, 4 or 5 businesses? I can't even figure out how many businesses, plus actually managing to have some friends. You look as though sometimes you do some exercise or something. You don't look like you're sitting on your chair all day long. Like, how do you do it?
It's a good question, and one I had to give some thought to because I don't think I was aware of how I did it. I just moved through life, and before I knew it, I had quite a lot on my plate, and I really wasn't aware of what was happening until you asked me the question the other day. How do you do that? Let's talk about it. So I would say most of my time, I know there's an awful lot to do, and being present is really important. So I have to prioritize what's got to come today or what's going to happen this week. And I definitely compartmentalize times that I have to do certain things. So for a good example of that is if it's the morning, I'm present with the kids and I'm doing all the kids' activity. And that might even be, that's the time when I'm doing the washing, but that's like the preparing them, because when they've left and gone to school, I can then come back and do my work, and that will depend on what's happening in the businesses for the week. So some weeks, some businesses are really heavy, some weeks they're light. A good cycle to follow, as an example of that, would be financial reporting. So I know once a month I need to get all the finances in control. So I need to allocate so much to that business at that time. So it's just about, for me, being, I suppose, conscious of what's coming up, but really being present and only trying to control what I can control. I really have learned to let go, step back, let other people do what they're responsible for, and also they're not worrying about that, because there's so much nervous energy that can be attached to the whole game, which can be exhausting. So I very much protect my energy and preserve my own health, because I think that's really key for me to be able to navigate this landscape and the activities I've got to get through in a week, or a month or a year.
There's a lot in that, in what you just said then. There's a lot in your life, and there's a lot in what you just said then. And some of the themes that I could hear when you were talking about being present. I think that's a really great theme to talk about. And also dealing with what you deal with as it arises, but also being planned at the same time. So what comes to mind then is how organised you have to be and how planned you have to be in these particular circumstances. And then also, dealing with whatever you have to deal with without having to think about all the other things that could possibly be going on. So therefore being present with those particular things too. So I think there's a lot in that. And probably the question I have for you is, how planned are you compared to how spontaneous you are around the day that actually comes up to deal with whatever you have to deal with?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question, Matt, because I am so planned. So I have systems and diaries and calendars, and everything is set up. And on a Sunday night, I sit down and I plan my week, and I'll look at everything, and I actually have a paper diary, and then I have my calendar diaries, and I put into a paper diary the things like the activities or the tasks that need to be completed for the week. And I'll wake up in the morning, and I wake up every morning and do a relaxation. And I would, in an ideal world, exercise. That doesn't always happen, depending on what's happened overnight. And then the day starts. And that's where being present for me is really important, because I can't always control what's going to happen in that day. So there might be a phone call that will come in. Someone might have a new idea that we've got to shift a focus of the business. A child might be sick. It might be a new opportunity. There might be a question coming in from the accountant. There's a lot of things that will happen in the day where I can't necessarily plan for that. So probably what I focus on is trying to have as much as I can control done in the morning. I used to try and do it in the afternoon and get my exercise and everything done in the morning. Now I've switched that, and I do the most important things in the morning, and then I'll exercise it in the afternoon before I go and pick the kids up. Because that way I know I've ticking off and moving forward to reach the goals, and making sure that I've got everything that I'm responsible for taken care of to the best. So it's not a game of perfect. So that's my planning is the place where I like to sit, and it's perfect and it's beautiful. And then there's the reality where probably 50% of the time it goes, the way that I'd like it to go. But life is life, and we have to be fluid. And I find that the more relaxed I am and the more present I am, the easier it is for me to navigate through that space. And I feel like I can either live this in a stressed, uptight manner, or I can live it and enjoy it. Because mind you, I choose to do these things. So it's my husband runs a business, and I've been part of that for 17 years. And that's gone in ebbs and flows and sizes over the years. I've got a business with my family that is a lighting business, and that has gone through different sizes as well over the last 4 years. And then I've got another business that I do on the side, coaching, which is taking a back seat at the moment, mainly due to time. And so throughout all of those different elements of life, so many different topics that can come in, it's critical for me to be relaxed so that I can shift and think, okay, so what headspace do I need to be in for that? Who am I when I'm playing that part of my life? And that might come down to many times, people will recognize this. You'll be sitting down and you'll be ready to work, and the phone will ring, and you've got a sick child and you've got everything's changed. God bless them. But you're heading off to school to pick up the kids, and
as business owners, I hear this a lot where they have a plan for the day or a task list to do, and then by the end of the day they've done none of it because their days have been railroaded and sidetracked by, and that's fundamental to what they do. And it sounds like that will happen to you. That what I do feel though is people actually can beat themselves up at the end of the day and feel like they've actually got nothing done because they didn't tick off all the things on their actual task list at the start of the week. Does that happen to you, or how do you manage that, as a question?
Oh, yeah, I always overcommit. I think I'm some superwoman and I can do all these things. And in reality, I can't. And so I've just learned, and it was a good example this week, to pull back and set my boundaries and say, well, actually, I'm human, and this is where it stops. And And I've overcommitted. And even this morning, someone asked me if I wanted to do the Oxfam walk, which I'd said a couple of months ago, oh, that'd be fantastic. And I said, do you know what? That would be overcommitting, because I know what I've got committed to in the businesses and just in life. And we're also renovating our home. So that's a massive job, and a new puppy. So I've got better at saying no to things and not overscheduling as much. And I think what you think is going to take you 15 minutes actually takes you half an hour, because you've got to be in the right headspace or get the right momentum to get things done. So there's sort of things that I've only learned and really am reminded of. Sometimes I perfect it, other times I'm completely overwhelmed and like, oh, what have I done to myself this week? It's too full.
I want to ask about how it works with the kids, because for so many people, I think they can manage business because you can organize it and you can schedule things, and it's all, relatively speaking, it's more controllable than kids. And many business owners really struggle to be present with their kids. I know that they're in their minds all the time thinking about the business, and so the kids don't actually really get the best of their parents if they're running a business. I don't get that impression with you. So how do you do that bit of the different rhythm and the different energy that kids need from you?
I've got better at it. I haven't always done it well. And I don't think, Darren and I together haven't always done it well. We're starting to involve the kids in our business, particularly our main business, which is an electrical business. So we talk about it with them so that they understand then the importance of the work that we're doing. They understand that that's the main income for the family. And that's been the longest running business. So it's really important that that stays, and could potentially be something that, they get involved in as they start to decide what their career path is. And if that's not the case, then we want to be in a position to be able to sell it, to be able to, add on as, add to a legacy for them. So talking to them about the business has definitely helped. And look, our kids range from, we've got 4 children, so 15, 13, 9 and 3. So we've got a wide range of experiences and topics going on there. So, Jessica's different. We just need to be present with her because she's 3 and that's where she's at in her development level, where Will work with Darren on the weekend. So if we say to him, hey, we've got some things we've got to get organised for the business, can you do this, he'll just take care of it. And Olivia, equally, she's 13, she understands it. She started to help out with some of the paperwork because she wants some pocket money. So it's been a really good evolution of what in the past when they were young and the 3 oldest were, closer in age, it was really intense. It was full on. And I definitely felt like I was down in the trenches where we were starting to build the business and I was working from home with little kids and they're sleeping and I'm trying to make phone calls and do the work in that time. So it was an awful experience at times, to be honest, because we'd have tenders to do and the hours were long, and sometimes when you do the work is when they go to bed. But now that I understand life more, having probably gone through this journey with children and small business for longer, I definitely put the computer down at night time so that I get a good night's sleep. Present with them, probably 5 out of 7 nights we're sitting down at the table together having dinner, which is, in times frustrating because it's a lot of pressure to sit down, but then it's our time to talk. And they always say, one of our favourite times of the week is having dinner together. And I'm thinking, really? It's so stressful. It's so loud and so full on, but they love it. That's their life. They only know that environment. So I think involving them and talking to them and explaining it, and they'll understand the passion behind it, definitely as you get older. And I think when the kids are younger, it's you need a lot of discipline and give yourself a break. It's tough. It's really tough. And also, actually, I was talking to someone the other day, they've got me on a roll. It's about letting them go. Let them go. They're okay. They're okay if they're sitting on their own playing in their bedroom. They're not going to be troubled by that. I think often, I know I felt this in the past, I wanted to be so much a part of their life and felt like I had to do everything for them. But now looking back, what's the most rewarding is when they start to take responsibility for themselves, and that also that becomes part of the whole story, because small business is also intrinsically linked with your family. It's not necessarily two separate things. Yeah, it's challenging and also rewarding. Yeah.
You also worked in corporate as well, and I wouldn't mind sort of getting a bit of a take between sort of working in corporate compared to being in a small business as well. I think that there could be some comparisons and some things that will come out of that sort of experience that you've had.
Yeah, well, my recent experience working in corporate was fabulous, actually, and coming off the back of working for 17 years in small business, I was quite surprised how quickly I moved into a management position, because you're just exposed to so much when you're running your own business. And I think you underestimate how much knowledge you actually have around business. And I remember thinking that I was more of a generalist, because I was literally at times the receptionist, through to the bookkeeper, through to the salesperson, through to the tender writer, through to the HR, do the payroll, the whole thing, to go, well, what actually is my skill? And interestingly, I went into a role that was a 6-month contract, just looking at the sales team and how we could improve the processes, because I'm a big believer in you need to systemize and automate your business to take the bulk of the work where you can away from you, because then you know that things are happening for you while you're sleeping or while you are doing other things, and it's just much easier. Spend the time. People think that I don't have the time, I'm so busy, but spend the time to set it up, because it'll give you more time to either spend with your family or spend some time on your own or with your friends, and your business will grow as a result, because you'll be happier. So moving into the corporate space, I very quickly found myself in a role that was looking after, it was a national role, and I was looking after about 300 part-time or casual staff members, and I had 9 direct reports globally. And I was like, yeah, no problem, that's fine. A bit kind of optimistic about it. And I loved it, because I loved the people side of it. And I loved setting up set up the department, and then we did a big transfer of business with it, which was really full on. And I was based in Melbourne at the time, well, I still am. And we did it through COVID, which was really tough. The difference that I observed of myself in being in a corporate and then also being in a small business is that it's so easy in your small business, because you get to choose everything. You get to choose your brand, get the name, the product, who you sell it to, whether you want to do that or whether you don't. When you work in a corporate, you often have to do things that you don't want to do or that you don't agree with. And so there's a lot more tension around moving towards the goal. There's more negotiating just around simple things. You've got to really bring people on board, and navigate a structure or like a hierarchy that to be honest, I wasn't necessarily well versed in, because I hadn't been in that environment for such a long time. Previous to working with my husband, Darren, I was working at Telstra. So Telstra's a telco in Australia, really large organisation. So I was used to that, but I had been away from it for such a long time that I had lost the knack to navigate it, to be honest. So I look back at that time, which I did that role for 2 years, as really rewarding, but also just reminded me of how much I loved small business and the pace you can move at, the speed, and it. I suppose the breadth of it, the breadth. And I think you have a great capacity when you're in small business you underestimate, and then working in a corporate, there's obviously pressure, and you commit to your role, and you commit to the business and their vision. It's slightly different being a paid employee to being a business owner. It was nice. I remember when I got my first paycheck, and it wasn't I didn't feel like I'd done very much in my first 2 weeks as I just arrived. I thought that was an easy 2 weeks pay. But the reward I get from being paid through our businesses is far greater, far, far greater.
Really great examples of the difference between sort of small business and working in a corporate, and really understanding that. And I think that the elements that I picked up there was that we do underestimate ourselves in terms of our ability when we're working small business, and the skills are transferable. So that's good to get that validation that we actually can do and we have great capacity. But the other, I think, really important point to make too is why large businesses continue on and continue to grow and develop is because there's good structure and discipline in them. And what you described in small businesses, that's what you translate into the small businesses, that structure, the discipline to ensure that the business continues on without constantly your input all the time. And it's something that obviously I teach business owners is a lot, but it's a great thing to highlight, because if you're talking about being able to do so much in a day with all the things that you've got to deal with and the people that rely upon you every day, being family and business, then that structure and that discipline is obviously key to being able to get through all the things that you need to get through in a particular day. So obviously the skills that you learn in the corporate world were transferable into the small business and then back again as well, which is really great to sort of understand.
And in the role I'm doing at the moment, I can see the skills that I learned in the corporate space coming back to benefit the smaller business. And it's funny how your career, and I'll call it a career because I've now popped my head out of small business into a corporate space. So that was sort of a place as well where I created my own identity as well, because I'd been part of business identities so the electrical business is owned by my husband and I've supported him, and our family businesses, we went in with my siblings, and I wasn't necessarily the face of that, but it was always a joint story. And the story was about the business. And there was a part of me, and also when you become a mother, I think you tend to lose your identity behind your children, where I felt like, this is actually, I'm representing me for the first time in 17 odd years. And that was really rewarding. And then also to come back and just have a bit more confidence in my own ability. And I know being in the small business, you don't necessarily get that validated often unless you go and seek it, because you're not necessarily used to people offering that, or you're serving your clients and providing a service to people. And I think the focus is so much on the client and the business and keeping it moving and achieving your aspirations that you sometimes forget to think or give yourself a pat on the back and say, yeah, good on me. I'm a champion. I turned up today. I had this has been tough, or I'm feeling a little bit low, or there's a few other things going on in my life. I've got to dig deep today. And mental health is such a big issue. And we have that running through my family as a theme. And so it is those little moments of, go get them, and yep, you can do it, and simple little things that run your routine of preparing yourself for the day, or preparing yourself to show up time and time again, when sometimes you're the only person sitting in the driver's seat. You might be driving the whole car on your own.
How do you draw upon those times where you because we do get wrapped up in everybody else's, as business owners, I feel that we serve people. We're very good at supporting a lot of people around us, but probably forgetting to support ourselves. And I remember when, my children were younger and that sort of stuff. And especially when they were first born, I never felt like I was in the right place at the right time. If I was at work, I felt like I should be at home. If I was at home, I should be earning money and the business. I never felt like I was actually where I was supposed to be, and then therefore not really looking after myself at the same time. So what sort of technique are you using to sort of remind yourself that it is okay, and yes, I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and those sorts of things like you were saying before?
Experience has been helpful for me of probably not doing that. So now I'm in position where I've created and I've designed a different environment for myself, where I've put some more time into my life. So one of the businesses, our family business, I'm not helping out in that on a day-to-day basis at the moment, because I'm full. There's a lot of my life having 4 children. But that's actually the job, in essence. And then when I really digested that as a concept, I was like, okay, so if that's, however many hours of unpaid work a week, endless, then where does the small business fit in? Where I used to fit in the family on top of the small business. So that was a bit of a shift for me recently. And we have the benefit of a business that's been running successfully for a while. So we've got all the systems that run, and I can come in and out of that very easily now. I'm forgetting your question now. Going off. That's all right. So
it's kind of like what you focus on, which is what you said about seeing that the family is the full-time job, for want of a better word. So therefore, that is your, the highest priority of what you do on a daily basis. And if you had to actually say, okay, what comes first? If there's competing forces that will happen in your day, which no doubt you've got massive competing forces every day, you go, okay, what's the highest priority? And typically the family will sit at the highest priority, which is your, and no different to if you're paid full-time by an employer and you have part-time jobs, you will typically make sure that you're doing your full-time job in priority to your part-time jobs, and family is your full-time job sort of thing. So that was that sort of concept that you were talking about a minute ago.
I think it's complex. So I do put my family first, but I haven't always, because I'm definitely someone that gets focused on a goal, and then I kind of get a little bit too focused on it. Experience that has helped me to have better understanding of how I behave when I'm doing that. I don't know. I'd say it would just be experience and knowing more about myself. So understanding how I work and what my triggers are and what's important. I don't know. That's challenged me, that question. Right?
I'm curious about when you're working with other people, which you have to all the time, how much difference does it make? You say you know yourself better. What about knowing how other people operate? Is that something that's significant for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Because if I have the theme of I serve, and I serve in my life, so who do I serve today? And that can range through a number of different people. Really connecting with the people that are around me, and that comes from being present and being willing to listen, and maybe not being right all of the time, and trying to understand, seek to understand, enjoy the difference in people as well. So I know who I am, and I've done every different profiling course under the sun, as many people have nowadays. How do I complement the people that I'm working with? How do they complement me? How do we join together as a team? And really, and I see that how you guys work is it's about the people that you have around you. Like, have good people around you. So when you're turning up to work, and same with your clients, enjoy your clients. Choose clients that you're going to enjoy working, and they're going to value what you contribute, and you can leave and at the end of the day, and there's appreciation and gratitude for the work, but also just the human exchange. Because business, I don't say that business and people are separate. And your podcast recently about emotions in business is also kind of challenging, because people are a bundle of emotions. And ultimately, the daily challenge is managing those emotions in a manner to stay focused and get, and have a meaningful experience, so that you have some joy and, fun and fulfillment in life. that
So
gives you a reward.
have you consciously then made decisions about the people that you will spend time with compared to the ones you won't in business and also in life to actually make sure you're honouring that?
I have, absolutely, yeah. And that came out of my recent experience working in corporate. I had to make a really tough decision, and I had a challenging situation, and I had to sit back and say, okay, what's really important to me? And I took about 2 days, and I tend to go quite introverted when I'm going through a big decision process. And I like to get consultation and from people who are experts, and this goes for pretty much my main decision-making process, but I then take it in and I digest it all. But I like to be still. One of my practices is just to be still within myself every day so that I can listen. And I came back to, okay, well, what's important to me? And family and health were the 2 key priorities. So the decision I had to make was a tough decision, but it was easy because I knew what my purpose was. And so when I had that whole body yes to it, and the energy just allowed it to execute, it still brings a lot of hurt to me thinking about the situation and the decision I had to make. But in terms of that, yeah, I absolutely think about that.
That self-awareness and the understanding of yourself and how you do things and go about life, it comes loud and clear in how you've operated and navigated through that quite successfully, and that's obviously a significant key as to why it looks like you've got everything under control.
Yeah, you're a beautiful example of the spirit of business, actually. Well, the spirit of life as well, of somebody who's really living and not second guessing yourself the whole time. And there's a very relaxed air about it. And I know that you've had to put a lot in to be able to find that, but it's very, very nice to see that being shared, to see that you've reached a level where you can share that, and there's a wisdom that comes through as a result as we listen to what you're saying, and I'm sure that other people will greatly appreciate it. Certainly you don't allow much room for excuses, because really with what you're doing, it's inspiring in terms of what's possible.
Oh, wow, thank you.
It is inspiring on many levels, being able to sort of successfully manage, relationships and family and, children and husband and, businesses and it's very, very difficult. And the way you manage it and the way you do it, and, me knowing you well enough, the word that comes to mind is you do it with grace. And I think that that's a really great way to describe the way you've navigated through the complexity, because you can do it with grace or you can do it in a completely different manner than that. And I think the way you do it is do it really well. But the themes that you've shared today are great techniques and things to then take back into our lives to then go, okay, well, how am I going to manage this, and where does my priority work, and how should I manage myself? And I think it's really important to focus and really think about those things on a daily basis, as you say, rather than just sort of go through one day to the next day to the next day without really stopping and thinking about it.
Yeah, I would like to say a big thank you. Thank you for sharing your life, your approach to business, your way of doing things, your family with us. And I think that many people will go away from this conversation reflecting quite deeply on the way they prioritize in their own life.
Oh, thank you both. It's been a lovely conversation. And as you know, I would talk to the two of you for many more hours. Appreciate the topic conversation.
We need to do a 5-hour podcast.
Thanks, Juliana.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to The Spirit of Business with Matt Murphy and Sarah McCrum. We'll be back next week with another episode. You'll find the show notes with links and other useful information on our website, spiritofbusiness.live. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends.